Good morning. Enjoying your blended family and prayers from a mom. Sorry, I'm getting started just a little bit later than normal, but I also like to wait until it says one person is on, but I don't always do that, especially this late, like it's almost 15 after. But this morning didn't go quite as my normal routine goes, and so trying to get started right on time. I'll tell you more about that in just a second, but we are in week shoot, I don't know if it's and the cat and the dog are fighting right outside the door because the dog is not usually up this early at this time either, which is part of the story here in a minute. But we're either in week 35 or 36. Honestly, I was doing it all so quickly this morning, trying to get us keyed in that I cannot remember which week, but of us reading through the Bible with the filter that God is a good and loving God, and He has a purpose and a plan for each and every one of us. And it makes a huge difference when you read the Bible and when you read the Bible with this filter that God does everything for the good of you and for the good of the rest of humanity, for his children. We are his children. And when we look at it through that lens, we can see how purposeful his actions are. Just like when we start to refer to it as the things that we do as parents, that yes, there may be some things in our humanness that we do that have no calculation, no reason, no purpose behind it. But think of the things that when you are trying to raise your children and you make these very um, specific things that either are your morals, your values, the rules for your household, the things that you're going to be involved in, all of those things are very calculated. When your children do something that goes against those things, they're calculated, like, how are we going to handle this? Now, because we are human, there are things that we do that probably weren't the best choice in our parenting, but we are doing what we think is best, right? And that's the difference of us being human parents and doing this for the first time, and God being almighty, all knowing, and has the bigger picture, like not just our life bigger picture, but the bigger picture of humanity and just the entire world from beginning to end in his view and in his scheme, like not scheme, but like his, I don't know the word I'm going for right now, but all of that, he sees it and he knows how to very specifically calculate each thing that needs to take place in order to make it all happen. He knows the parts are his job solely, and the jobs that he is delegating to us as his children, and then that we are supposed to delegate onto others as believers. And so it's just this whole machine that's working together so perfectly. And when we're looking at the Bible, because the Bible is giving us those details from beginning to end, and there's so many little details. And today, the details are those where I said it was going to get into it, where it's like, I can't just sit here and just read all of 27. Like, you would lose interest, I would lose interest. It's just these very precise things. And I talked about that last week. Like, I understand why. For one, because they don't know what the heck they're doing. And for two, because he knows exactly what it needs to look like. So he needs to give them the exact instructions, just like I was telling y'all with the how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you did in school. There's these details that have to be added in. If not, you don't end up with a sandwich that you can actually eat at the end. So that's what's happening here. He's putting together all these tiny details that have significance. We just don't understand all of it. And we can ask God to help us understand it. And he may bring clarity to you in that area. He has not for me, but I'll be real with you. I haven't really went real in depth into studying all these little pieces either. I've had to get to a place with some of it. I ask God to bring me some clarity, help me understand. And if he doesn't, then that's not something, or like if he doesn't lead me to have to like search down a path more, then we keep moving forward. Now, maybe at some point in time, there will be a thing like, okay, this is very important to understand what an ephod is. Ephod, it's EPHOD. I did look that up this morning because I'm like, I don't know what the heck this is. But if he doesn't instruct me in that way, I just keep on reading with as much understanding that I have. Whew, that was a lot for an introduction. So now we're going to pray and we're going to share some gratitude. We're going to get into it. I think we're going to be reading 27 and 28 because, again, like I said, we're not actually reading it today. I'm summarizing it, but I am going to pick little pieces out of it to read with you guys. So, Father, just be with my mouth this morning as I'm trying to bring understanding and clarity to what I am reading. And then, Lord, help it make sense to those that are listening today, those that took the time to wake up and to get into your word, Lord, that let this moment not pass them by. Let it be purposeful in what you are telling them, that the words that come out of my mouth, there's something that's piercing their heart. Their eyes are being open, their ears are being open, and their heart is being softened to what you are talking about here, Lord, especially when it comes to leadership and the role that you have given each of us in our lives, Lord. In some roles where you've given us to be, um, you've delegated somebody else's task onto us, and you're trusting us to do that. And Lord, some of those areas where we are asked to be the leader and to take charge, and then those things that we're supposed to delegate to other people as well. So, Lord, just help it all make sense. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Whew, that was a lot just to start out with. So, just so y'all know exactly where my brain is this morning. So, I woke up, um, went in, I sat on the couch, started to listen to this lesson. I listened to all the way to about Exodus 29, and it was just a lot of these repetitive, not really necessarily repetitive details. Like they're not the exact same thing he's saying, but just so many details. And to be honest with you, I fell back asleep. I'll just tell you like it is. And I was listening to it. I was cozy. I had my blanket and I was just sitting there. So I was listening to about 29 when I think I dozed off. And I got up. I came in here to get ready to start reading some more and prepare. And then Big Riley saying, let's go watch the sunrise. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing awake right now? And then she came down here and we chatted for a minute. And so now, possibly when I get off here, we are going to drive out to the beach and watch the sunrise. So, as my gratitude from this last week, because there was a lot of good things that took place, but we went and we saw Santa's surfing in on Saturday morning. And I was trying to even think what happened Friday morning. I think, oh, Friday, Riley and Randall had their gig. And I got the scavenger hunt. If you're local in our area, I got the Christmas lights scavenger hunt done. It's out there. It's for our community. It just takes a lot of like the best lights that I like, the people or other people have told me. And I drive the route just to make sure it'll flow in like a couple hours time frame, and then put that out for the community. But I put links in it and stuff, so it'll tell you, like you can click on it and it takes you to your Google Maps, and so that way you can get directions there easily. So got all of that. That was my focus on Friday. It was Saturday morning. Me, Riley, Teresa, and Violet, we all drove out to the beach because we live about 10 minutes from the beach, and I think they do this each year. I've seen advertisements before, but I've never actually gone. But for our family Christmas theme this year, we're doing Australia. We've been trying to pick for the last few years, pick a different country and learn some of their like traditions and stuff around Christmas and understanding the reasons and the why behind they do it. And all of that was sparked because I have a great cousin who decorates her tree and does little themes like that. And I've never got to experience that with her because she lives in Illinois. And I've always thought it was really cool when she would tell me the stories. And I'm like, well, when I get older, I'm going to do this with my family. And it finally got to a point where I'm like, okay, let's do this. So the first year we did Mexico, last year we did Japan. And this year we're doing Australia. And one of their traditions is watching Santa surf in. That's like something that's pretty normal that happens there. And so when I saw it, I thought, well, that's just perfect. So we went out there, and it was so cold. The waves were so big, and we got to watch the Santas, but we got there maybe like 30 minutes late. So the majority were already in the water, and we were watching them like surf in and stuff. But it was still really, really cool event to go see. We saw a Santa do a handstand coming in on the water. Like, how amazing is that? And so then life continues. And now Riley she's like, I think we need to go watch the sunrise. It's supposed to be clear skies this morning, per what the weather says, but I still am going to work. And so it's like all this stuff I'm trying to like figure out. And then it's like, okay, well, I got to go live in like 5 minutes, and I'm not ready. So she's like, okay, I'll go. And then her dog's down here, and the cat, and the routine, and all of that. You know how it gets you off your routine. Anybody else this week off their routine because maybe their spouse is out of work? Randall is also off right now. It's his first day of sleeping in that he has off the next 2 weeks. And so I also want to respect that and like be quiet and stuff, and not take away from his joyous moment of being able to sleep in. And so it just threw me a little bit for a loop this morning. We're going to read Exodus 27 and probably Exodus 28. But there's this study notes in my Bible that talks about taking charge. And so I want us to focus on that this morning. And they're pulling it from Exodus 27, 1, all the way through Exodus 28, 43. So that's all of 27 and 28. And so I'm like, okay, I don't really see how you're getting that out of that, but I'm going to trust you, Bible scholar, that broke that down, that you know what you're talking about. So we're going to start. I'm going to brief over what 27 is about. Then we're going to read part of 28 because there's pieces in there that I think we actually need to read. And then we're going to read that study note right there. So starting in Exodus 27, it's the plans for the altar of burnt offering. And so there's the tabernacle, there's the Ark of the Covenant, and that's all in this little tent area. And then there's this altar for the burnt offerings. I don't know that the thing. So here's all of let's see if you can see that. Here's all the stuff like where the lamp and the table and the place where only the Holy of Holies go, the curtain that's in there. But then outside of that is this burnt offering area. And so it gives these exact instructions on like making the horns for the corners, and make an ash bucket, and the shovels, and the basin, and the meat forks, and the fire pans. All of these details in there, the poles that are going to go through to be able to hold it. And then it goes into the plans for the courtyard, which is this outer layer. So in this picture, this is the one you can't see as well, but it has this, it's a little bit more realistic, but it has this fencing going around it. And you can see that here as well. So it has this courtyard that goes all around it to keep this area like staked off in a way. Like, this is important. Like, all of this spot right here. As you can tell, like, my words are completely not with me this morning. I did not have time to have my full, like, let's just wake up. And what's funny, I know it's a sidetrack, but what's funny in my late night thoughts, I kept waking up all night long last night because Devin and Teresa and the baby were driving in from North Dallas. When I went to sleep at like 10, they were still like 3 or 4 hours away. Dev woke up. He went to work Saturday morning at 6:30, then drove them to Dallas. They didn't get into their place to sleep because they were locked out for like 2 hours. So it was like 2 or 3 in the morning till they finally got in. And then they woke up the next day. They were a couple hours away from the wedding. So they slept in some and went to the wedding. It's one of Teresa's like really good friends. And then after the wedding, drove in last night. So you can imagine mom here with my son and my daughter-in-law and the grandbaby, holiday weekends and all of that on the road, and it's colder up there, and he's sleepy, and it's just, you know how your brain works as a mom. And so I've had to constantly be taking my thoughts captive and like, nope, 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 this isn't what I'm supposed to, like, don't focus on this. Nothing bad's gonna happen. Angels are surrounding my kids, protecting them, keeping safe. So, anyways, I was waking up all night long, just checking my phone to see when they got home, and they got in around sometime between 1:30 and 2. And so, in one of my late night, early morning thoughts, I remember waking up like, man, I am so ready for this week. I read this discipleship or watched this discipleship video about um, having what how was it like that these giants, like whatever your purpose is, if you can't figure out what your purpose is, look and see where you have giants on your neck. So like where is the part of your life, this is just free, this has nothing to do with this morning for you, but this is my thoughts from this morning. Wherever these areas of your life where you feel like you just can't win, right? Like life just keeps crushing you in this area. I know for Randall and I, time and our finances are two of these areas where it's just like we feel like we cannot get a hold of it. We're busy. And we hate the word busy, but we're constantly, our schedule is like over full, even when we're very wise about taking things off the schedule. Things just pile back on, or things that weren't planned, or we put different stuff back on. It's just something we have not been able to get a hold of. And then our finances, regardless if we had $0 coming in when we stepped out in faith doing our own business, or when he got this promotion and we have double the amount of money that we've ever had coming in. It's just like this thing that we can't win, and we know that we're supposed to. And so as I was listening to this video this last week, it was really like building me up in this area of like, oh heck yeah, like I've got this, we're gonna. And it's, you're not fighting giants in the like human sense, when our fight is not with flesh and blood, our fight is with um it's with the spiritual realm, right? We're fighting it, our spirits, and we fight this with our spirit. We fight in the spiritual realm through prayer and worship, finding scriptures to declare over your life, worshiping in the middle of when you want to be worrying kind of stuff. And so, with that being said, it's like I was like so ready to wake up and do that. And then it's just like boom, 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 like all of these other things, like my brain going all of these other directions. But that doesn't mean I stop. That doesn't mean we give up. That's just a little free nugget for you this morning, to be letting your will spin on this area that you feel like you just can't get a hold of. And as I walk through this, because I'm going to, just like when my kids' lives were at risk of just danger in those pivotal years, that I went full force, like mama bear mode, like we aren't letting this happen. The enemy will not have my kids. And I dug into the word and I found scriptures and we declared that. And we've seen God do incredible things in their lives and in our family. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this fight. But I need enough sleep at night so that I can fight this fight well, right? Anybody else need enough sleep to fight this fight well? Okay, so now plans for the courtyard. So they give all of these specific instructions on there. How many feet long? 75 feet long, 22 and a half feet long for the curtain on the right side. Like for the entrance of the courtyard, make a curtain that's 30 feet long. All of these different details that I know are very, very important. Telling them what colors to use, scarlet thread, blues, purples, and then how to secure the post. And then it goes in to talk about the light of the tabernacle, which I am going to read. It says, command the people of Israel to bring your pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamp burning continually. The lampstand will stand in the tabernacles in front of the inner curtain that shields the ark of the covenant. Aaron and his sons must keep the lamps burning in the Lord's presence all night. This is a permanent law for the people of Israel, and it must be observed for generations. Now, I'm going to stop there so that I can read this. I was going to try to read some of 28. Maybe I'll pick that up tomorrow, because if we're going to actually go see the sunrise, we need to be able to drive there in 10 minutes. And so, for me to, and I don't want to cut this reading short just because I want to get out of here, but I also want to read this area right here. So it says Exodus 27, 1 through 28, 43, taking charge. And so we'll get into the 28 tomorrow, but hopefully that will make more sense once we read what it says today. And so I want you to think of yourself in any of these roles here, because I do believe we each play these different parts of our roles. There's parts where God has called you to be in charge in this area. And then there's parts where he has asked you as the leader in charge to delegate some of these things, which is the life lesson that I have been learning this year. And I still haven't mastered it or got great at it, but I do know that he has put me in certain positions for me not to hold control, but for me to be able to release that control to other people so that they can do what God has called them to do. And then there's other areas where we still have people leading us as well. And we're the ones that they delegated things to. So think of, as like the day progresses, think of like what what is my role here, and which one of these am I, and which one does God want me to be, and how do I walk that out with purpose. And so it says leaders traits and taking charge. God called Moses with a direct command to take charge. It's the Hebrew vetah. It's the word, it says command. Hebrew veta tezav. Sorry for my Hebrew mispronunciations. The overseer must step in and take charge anytime he feels let me use my finger here. The overseer must step in and take charge anytime he feels his delegated leader is moved in the wrong direction or confusion is beginning to find entrance. So if you are the leader and you have put people in charge, there is a time that if you feel like it's going in the wrong direction, that you are to step in there and do something about it. Number 2, the call. It's the Hebrew veta hakrav. It says at times the leader leads by merely putting an arm around his subordinate's shoulder to affirm, identify with, or encourage, which encourage was our entire message at church yesterday. So I loved how it broke that down. Like, there's a time that you need to come in and you need to like intervene because they're getting off course. And there's times where you just need to come and put your arm around them, their shoulder, and talk with them, help identify like, okay, yeah, I understand this is what's going on. Help encourage them, affirm what they're doing. So it's completely different role there, right? Than when you're correcting them for what's happening versus when you're encouraging them for what's happening. 3, instruct all the skilled craftsmen. The leaders was in little brackets there. The Hebrew word veta tedbir. The literal statement is speak to the wise in heart. Occasionally, in order to avoid misunderstanding, an overseer needs to take charge by directly addressing the entire cadre of workers rather than by speaking through a delegated leadership. The wise leader knows to let the reins of authority hang slack that his delegates may learn. What the world? The wise leader knows when to let the reins of authority hang slack that the delegates may learn, but he should not relinquish full responsible control until God tells him to do so. And so there's this order here when there's certain times when certain things need to take place. And just to give you like a little example with that, in the way that our church runs things, and they're very particular in the way that they assign different people in different roles. So we have our pastor, his name is Vincent. He's our main leader. He's our pastor, right? But then there are people under him, which this is our first time being at a church where there were people called elders. So there's these certain men that are in charge of different areas. And one of the men is in charge of nursery. That he does not come in and help in the nursery. He oversees the big decisions that are being made. He speaks to the pastor if they have anything specific that they need to let me know about, or budget wise. Like, he's the one that looks at the budget and oversees it, and then he puts me in charge of actually going out and doing the purchasing, and he trusts me to spend the money in this way. And then I put that information back to him, like with giving him, like, this is how much we spent and that kind of stuff. I'm the one that creates the curriculum in our nursery area. I'm the one that decides who volunteers and comes in and works at certain days, certain times. I talk with the volunteers. I get their schedule together, and then I put them in charge of certain dates. And then I also go into the nursery and work as well. And I know when it's time for me to step in, or when's the time that they have it on their own. And then they are in there doing the work, right? Like, they're the ones with getting their hands, um, changing diapers and teaching lessons and rocking babies and all of that kind of stuff, playing with them. So do you see how this leadership role, it gets delegated? We don't have our pastor in there wiping booties. But I'm also not doing the things that he's over there supposed to be doing. And then there's this in between, like someone who is a volunteer in the nursery, if they had an issue with something that's going on, their next steps would be to talk to me about it. That would be the right thing to do. And then if I'm like, oh, this is beyond me, or we need some more advice, I wouldn't go straight to the pastor. I would go to the person that is the elder over the nursery area. And then if he saw fit, then he would take it to the pastor. So there's this order in here and taking charge. And it's very important in this order so that things are getting done. And so in my head, it makes sense when you look at something like that. Like, okay, so when is it time for me to come in and say, I need to talk to all of the volunteers at once, or maybe my leader, JD, for him to come in and talk to all of us at once? Or when's it time to just say, like, you are doing a fantastic job? Like, I know that the like scheduling leaders is not always easy, getting volunteers to come and want to be in here and to prioritize being here and all those kind of things. But you know what? You're doing fantastic. You are the right woman for the job. For him to tell me that and encourage me that way. And then for me to come alongside the volunteers and say that same thing. But then there might be times that he needs to come and sit us. Maybe something happened and he needs to sit us all down and he needs to have a conversation with all of us. Um, so that's just like the way that I was able to break it down in my head. We're going to pick this back up tomorrow. We're going to pray now. We're already wrapping up right around 30 minutes. So perfect timing. And then I'll let you know how the sunrise goes, if we can race the sunrise and get to the beach. It's still super dark outside. Whew. So Father God, I just ask that as I spoke these words to each of us today, Lord, that you are helping us see these different areas in our life. Lord, first and foremost, this job that you've given us in the family that we have, the home that we have, whose role it is to do certain things. And Lord, I know in our modern day, sometimes these roles get all flipped on who's the person in charge of the house, Lord, or there's single parents raising their household and it doesn't work the way that you designed it, or we're co-parenting with other people and it can feel like and become just a chaos mess. Lord, I pray that they seek you and they find direction and the order and the authority of what that looks like in their home to be a leader in this way that it was talking about today in Exodus 27 and 28. And Lord, I pray the same thing over our workplace, to find our place, our role, those areas that we have people above us, and then those that have been placed specifically underneath us, to be able to delegate responsibility so that and encourage them so they can do the job that you called them to do. And Lord, I pray that same thing in our community, that we find our place there. I pray that same thing in our church, that we find our role there, and wherever else it is that you would have us. Lord, I thank you that we can seek you for wisdom and you are going to give it to us. And so just thank you for the clarity that you're bringing to us today. And I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys, if that felt like a hot mess this morning, I truly apologize. But I will be back here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. See you then.